Are we on?
It's starting. There we are.
Hey, good evening. This is the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals. It's September 15th, 2022, Thursday night. We meet the third Thursday of every month. We're at the Littleton Town Offices at 37 Shattuck Street, room 103, Littleton. And our meetings are live again, which is very nice, live and in person. It's 7:00 p.m. I'm calling the meeting to order, and I want to introduce our newest alternate, just appointed Monday, and efficient enough to get sworn in time for this meeting, Nick Pellegrino. And this is our board: Rod, Cheryl, Sherry, John, and Kitty. It's easy. A lot of us have the same names.
Do we have nameplates up there?
No, they're coming. I've ordered them.
They lost the ones from.
And why don't you tell us a little about yourself, please?
Sure. My name's Nick, obviously. I've been living in Littleton since 2017. My wife and I just had a baby last year. Yep.
Cool.
And I'm also the chairperson for the Transportation Advisory Council here in Littleton. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I saw that you were on another board and was impressed when they appointed you. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Our board runs with 5 regular members and 3 alternates. So Kitty is an alternate right now, you're an alternate right now, and Eli Constantino, who started with us during COVID, is an alternate. He wasn't able to come tonight. These are the 5 members. And our board's history has been that you sort of rotate up when a member retires, goes on to bigger and better things like planning board, or has some attrition. So we do ask all of the alternates to input into all of the meetings, whether or not you're selected as a voting member for a meeting, depending on if we're short a member, we would select an alternate to vote. But regardless, we want your input, and we really value the input of all the different walks of life that we bring to the table. We're probably one of the friendliest boards in town, I think. The friendliest board in town, and I try anyway, and I think you all do the same. We try very hard to make sure everybody gets heard, even if the arguments have some degree of contention or whatever. Everybody has to have their day, if you will, and we're more like an arbiter of when people are trying to get around the zoning bylaw for a reason. And as we go through, I try to point out the code sections that we're relying on. So it is easy, and feel free to be outspoken if you want to.
So are we going to end up having the secretary attend, or is she just going to?
No, she will not ever attend. And so reviewing the minutes is really important, because it's hard for her to hear them or even to watch it, take notes, and then figure out who said what and in what context. So she's been sending them to me to do a first pass, and then I send them around to you to review and edit again. I'm not proud of anything. I just try to put things in a form that's, at least from my memory, the order of things I thought. Like last meeting was very difficult, these minutes tonight. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, I don't know if you all got this. I wanted you all to get it, and I'm afraid you might not have. We received a letter of 2 things. I did ask the secretary to put on the agenda that mail should be an item that we talk about, and I'm going to do this under member comments because mail didn't get on here tonight. But we are supposed to take up matters that are business that come before the board. And after the hearing last week that we're going to read the minutes on, we got a letter from George Sanders. It was funneled to the planning board through the office of the town administrator and to the board's chairpersons. So I had asked for it to come around to all of you, and I went to try to print it tonight, and my printer didn't like me. So I think what I'm going to do is ask you 3 to share over there. I'm going to share over here, and I am going to read it into the record. The letter is from George Sanders, and it says, "To the most honorable Littleton Planning Board, the most honorable Matthew and Michael Field. Ray, 1, an extension of a mere goodwill gesture of an olive branch to the Littleton Planning Board and the M&M Realty Trust to resolve the statements of the over 55 housing unit, stalemate, 2, concerning property location at 180 Great Road, Littleton, Mass. And 3, special permit in accordance with the Code of the Town of Littleton, Chapter 173, zoning Article 33, over 55 housing developments. Dear ladies and gentlemen, did your next paragraph print? Can you read the next paragraph?
What, yes. Oh,
First,
first and foremost, it's my hope that why do you ask the dyslexic person to do this all the time? Give me a break. First and foremost, it's my hope that your family, staff, and their families and you are all doing well, as this leaves the Sounders doing very well at this time. I am compelled to write this offer of an olive branch as a way to resolve the long ordeal of one over 55 housing unit. I'm writing to all based on the fact that I have knowledge as federal government contracting officer, contracting ordering officer, contracting officer representative, and contracting officer negotiator. I watched LCTV joint meeting of the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board on August 18th, 2022. It wasn't a joint meeting, it was we invited them to our meeting.
Yeah.
just read, if you don't mind, just read the letter.
There was enough blame to kick the can of blames down the road for a long time. The farmhouse was never in writing, and that's underlined and bolded, that it would be counted as one of the 4 over 55 units. However, I'm about letting blame be that of the past and start with a new slate, working together to resolve and come to a fair resolution for both parties. Before I get to what I would consider to be a fair resolution, I want to talk a little about us as human beings. Life is so fragile, and we never know from one second to the next what will happen. We came into this world with nothing, and we'll leave it the same way. I'm a realist, and I believe we have a duty to do the right thing always. Never forget from whence we came, because life itself is more fragile than we want to believe. As a negotiator, I'm going to go back and offer what would be a fair resolution for the ordeal for today. My resolution to this impasse is, I am convinced the Littleton Planning Board and M&M Realty Trust should resolve the stalemate with neither party having an advantage over one another.
I can pick up if you want. I have it now. Mine was just wiped out on page 1.
Okay, then you can do my resolution.
Okay. The cost for the 3 over 55 housing units were $236 per unit in March of 2017. Therefore, the 4th over 55 housing unit would be valued at $236 as well. It would be my offer for M&M Realty Trust to pay the town of Littleton $236,000 in lieu of building another unit to be used as the 4th unit. The reason for that offer of paying in lieu of building another unit will allow M&M Realty Trust to build the last unit free and clear of any ties to the town of Littleton. The pay in lieu will allow the town of Littleton to deposit the in lieu payment into the Littleton Housing Trust to be used toward building affordable housing units in the near future. Note, the past blames cannot be undone, and it is fair from today's stance to take the high road stance and move past the impasse by all parties. As a contracting officer, it is good to rely on bylaws and other regulations, but it is imperative that your permit and other documents, including in writing what the deal is. In writing, with a clear understanding, will always become the rule to follow in the future by all parties. As a negotiator, I find that the impasse to be over 5 years old. Therefore, the developer would have an increase in cost today to build the 4th unit for the town of Littleton. When I take into account of the developer's overhead costs for this impasse, it is fair to let M&M Realty Trust pay an in lieu payment to the town of Littleton. Let the developer build the last unit and sell it in an open market effort to cover the in lieu payment, impasse cost, and the cost to build the home. End. Neither party is bounded by my olive branch offer to do anything. The parties can let the impasse stand forever and walk away. It is the opinion of this writer as a contracting officer negotiator that the M&M Realty Trust and the Littleton Planning Board should give this olive branch offer due consideration to resolve the impasse. I wish to thank all in advance for your time, efforts, and attention given to this communication. And I think very sincerely yours, George Sanders, with copies to the Most Honorable Ed Mullen, the Most Honorable Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Most Honorable Anthony Ansaldi. Now, I would like to comment that we I would prefer not to comment on this letter. I want it read into the record and become part of
Point
the
of order.
file. We had our hearing, and that's
Point of
going to be
order.
the end of it. Yeah,
Are we going to read all letters we receive into record?
why not?
Okay. If we are going to read all letters we receive into record, we should also have some way of stating that this is not the opinion of the ZBA. This is opinion of a private person who sent us a letter.
That's fine. You just read it into the record, and you can clarify that if you wish.
And I would suggest that we, if we're gonna read letters into the record, they should just be attached to next month's, the
The
minutes
agenda
of this
for the,
meeting. No, to the minutes.
to
of
the
the
minutes
meeting.
of meeting. That's fine. That's
Yes.
also fine.
But,
And indicate that it was received after the close of the hearing.
That's fine, too.
yeah,
That's
it
fine,
just, it needs to be,
That's why it has to be in this week's minutes rather than last month's minutes.
That's fine.
Because we didn't have it last month when we did the meeting.
Well, the minutes certainly can reference that it's been received.
I think the minutes should only be up to what actually happened in that meeting, and then the minutes we have today,
I
because
don't
it got
have a
written,
problem, yeah.
it got written and spoken into the minutes of this meeting.
Agreed.
May I ask, I don't know what the history is of reading letters that are not part of the actual hearing into record. So I don't know what the history is, but also for future, if the position is that we will read all letters that come in into record, I'm just concerned about, not that I expect us to be deluged as such, but one never knows. And what would be, is there a specific rule that talks about that? Or is this the rule going forward? I'm just a little concerned.
I would like to double your concern and express some concern also, because reading that letter made me want to write my own letter expressing my opinion on the matter. And, and have it read into record. I mean, and there are other people who may
Pardon me a
hear
minute,
this.
please. Just pardon me a minute, please. The mail that comes before the zoning board of appeals is zoning board of appeals business. Whatever mail is received addressed to the Board of Appeals has always been read to the full board.
Okay.
And that's what this is.
Okay.
If you wish to write any letters at all, you're welcome to, but you are not allowed as a group to write an individual letter concerning a matter we've already heard. That either belongs, if it goes to litigation, it belongs in an executive session, or it should have been said at the meeting, because that's when the member input to that hearing happens. But any letter, even Nick Pellegrino's request to be considered for an alternate, gets read into the minutes of the meeting that the letter comes into. All the mail gets read, okay?
Okay, I
And
just
that's
don't
the
remember
that's the
reading
policy.
other letters in the past, so.
There haven't been,
just
There haven't been any.
Haven't been any.
Haven't been any.
That's fine.
all the letters, at least the whole time I've been on the board, there's only been people writing about
That particular
a
hearing.
particular
Yeah.
hearing item.
Yeah,
And those always get read
But
in.
I think if we are going to read in letters about past cases, it's important that we state that this is not the ZBA's opinion.
you have stated it.
And
It's stated.
And it is not
You-
part of the hearing.
Yeah, you just
It's not part
stated
of the
it.
hearing.
Yeah,
Are we doing the minutes?
yeah. Are you here for the hearing? I think we are, you know what, we can do minutes after your hearing. I'll call you in. Come in.
Yeah, you don't have to hide out there, you can come in.
You didn't interrupt us.
That's why it's open, it's where you're more than welcome to come in while we're talking. We opened the meeting at 7, and everybody who wants to come in is more than welcome.
Good evening.
We even have a table and a chair today.
That's interesting.
We didn't have that 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to call the 710 case number 22963, 7 Whitetail Way. The petitioner, Tim Bailio, seeks a variance pursuant to 17331 to reduce the setback. Oh, all related board business. Okay. The way we conduct our hearings is we have you come forward, show us what you want us to hear. You finish your presentation. We will ask board members if they have any questions or comments, and then when they're done, we'll ask people who are here if they have any questions or comments, and you'll have a chance to answer, rebut, and and sum up. Okay? And we're very informal. You can come forward and just tell us what you want us to know. You can sit, sure, be comfortable.
Okay. So I put together the presentation that it looks like you all have. when we moved in 2 years ago, our plan was to put in a retaining wall in the backyard. We had plans drawn up and whatnot. Main purpose is to provide a backyard for our children. Our current backyard extends about 15 feet from the house and then slopes off into the woods. So we're looking to level out the backyard, so bring it up level with the current 15 feet or so patio area. So that's the purpose of the wall. On one particular side, on Whitetail 5 side, which is Bill and Patty's property, we're looking to reduce the setback to 2 feet. That will provide room for maintenance and whatnot that may be required on the wall. That's the main gist of it.
Board members, any questions?
I see that your property slopes very drastically,
Yes.
and I understand your desire to. Are you going to put, at some point in the back, that wall will be 12 feet high? Will there be a fence along it?
There will be, yes.
You can't build the wall without put the wall in without the fence,
And
building code.
the back property line, you're well within the setback, is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
So it's only on the left side.
Untitled Chapter.
We worry about people maintaining their property and maintaining their walls. And we tend to get, or I tend to get uncomfortable when it's less than 3 feet, because 3 feet is wide enough to get a mower through, 3 feet is wide enough, because your next neighbor may be, your current neighbor is lovely and understanding, but your next neighbor may not be.
Understood.
And so we worry about, to me, that, I understand the topography, the soil conditions, the need for a backyard, I understand all of that. I just worry about the 2 feet is only that wide and not even wide enough to get a mower back there. Would you consider making it just a little bit?
We could consider it being wider. That particular part of the area could not be mowed anyways, not with a mower. It could be done with a weed whacker. I presently do it with shears. So,
Your property drops off pretty drastically, and there's nothing back there, and you're well away from your back property line, so.
And that 2-foot section, how tall is that wall gonna be? Will that taper to 10 feet also?
it
12.
tapers to 12 feet above grade,
Yeah.
from 0 to 12. Yep.
Okay. And part of the idea of the 3 feet is not just to mow it, but if you had to get a ladder back there or something to repair the wall, you could do it without being on the neighbor's property.
Did you see this?
Yeah, so I have it in here.
Okay.
Those are pictures, and nice pictures.
Your presentation is
presentation,
very
yeah.
well done, by the way. Nice drawings, nice diagrams, nice.
Other
The
board
2
member
feet.
comments? Oh, sorry.
The 2 feet is to the right of your property as you look from the front,
Correct.
so it'd be over here.
Other board member comments?
Do you have a full set of the plans?
I do. Honestly, it doesn't have much more than what you have in that presentation. I tried to take the best of what was there, but
Is are there adequate controls, surveying controls to establish where you're at on the property to make sure that when it's constructed, it's within the property lines?
I had the property surveyed about a year ago, so there's corner pins. I've left most of those stakes that aren't visible from the street in place, so that they're there as a guide. So they should be able to, it's also visible to some point down the property line from corner to corner.
Is it's are they the 2x4x2 blocks?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Is there a seal by a registered design professional?
It is.
Is that for the structure of the wall, the structural integrity of
It's
the
a
wall?
structural wall.
Yeah.
You ever seen the one at Lowe's in Nashua?
Yeah.
That's an engineering marvel.
Kitty, questions? Would you mind reading the abutter letter into the record, Kitty?
She has a copy. The letter's actually here. That could be the only letter.
August 29, 2022, attention Town of Littleton Building Department, subject to 7 Whitetail Way, retaining wall, to whom it may concern. It is our understanding that our neighbors, Tim and Sarah Balillo, excuse me, have submitted an application to fill a portion of their backyard to level out the grade, and accordingly, this will require a retaining wall, which will abut our property at 5 Whitetail Way. We have discussed the plan and understand the retaining wall will be 2 feet from our property line, which will require a town variance. The undersigned are the property owners at 5 Whitetail Way and see no issues and fully support the Bailey's application. If any questions can be reached, we can be reached at 203-671-9283 and 203-623-0919 respectively. Sincerely, William J. Bent and Patricia A. Bent.
She
Thank
does
you.
better than I do.
No, you just had already read tonight.
Um,
Go ahead.
Where's the on-site sewage disposal system?
Your
septic?
septic- yes.
Septic
It's in the front yard.
And this doesn't interfere with the proposed reserve or anything like that?
I would call to the attention of the board that we are looking at the zoning board of, the zoning bylaw of the town of Littleton. This is a variance because they are creating a violation of the setback, and it's a new violation of the setback. And the board has to determine that there is a hardship owing to circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, or topography of the land or structures, and is affecting especially this lot and not affecting generally the zoning district in which it's located. That a literal enforcement of the provisions of the chapter would involve a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner, and that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good or without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of this chapter. So I think that your written presentation satisfies the circumstances, but would you just cite them out so it's on the record, please? Owing to soil shape or topography. You said there's a steep drop-off. You said you're looking to establish a level playing area for your children. You're not constrained by the septic system being in the way in any way. And you have how much land to the rear lot line?
Almost a half acre behind us.
So you do have a large lot?
Yeah.
Okay. And the hardship is that this is where I just get a little bit stuck, and I'm sensitive to what you're trying to accomplish, but were it not for this lot, another lot coming before us, one would have the argument, you bought the property that way, you knew the limitations on the land being level for your children and the playing area and everything. What would happen if you tried to meet the zoning bylaw? This would have to be a 10-foot setback to meet the zoning bylaw because it's a detached structure, if you will.
Correct.
And of course, I have less concern over it being a wall than I would if it was a true structure. But what happens to the playing area if you meet the 10 feet and we don't give you the variance?
I mean, it severely reduces it. The side yard would no longer be an option to put a swing set or anything like that. It would now have to be completely behind the house. The side area actually would not be viable to play in because there would be fear of them falling down the hill, basically. That property would ultimately become useless for any reason.
Except that's how it was when you purchased it. Am I correct in saying that?
I guess so.
Yeah, and as I drove up and down the street, it seems like all of the lots along that street have similar features in that if we say yes to this one, what's to keep us from having every single person on the street come forward and look for 12-foot retaining walls, which becomes a concern to me. I'm not sure that I'm against your application tonight. I'm just raising it for the board because variance is supposed to be need and not want, and we have gone to that place with others in the past where we've struggled. So I think we should be struggling and not just saying, this is okay because it's a big lot and it's a neighbor that says it's okay. I think we need to really struggle a little bit with it. And somebody needs to convince me.
We've declared that garages are need,
Mm-hmm.
and to me, having space for children to play that does not involve streets or being in front of houses are as much of a need as a garage.
I don't disagree. What I'm
And we
hearing,
let people who buy houses without garages build them closer to property setbacks and agree that in New England, having a garage is a need, not just a want. So my argument to you would be that in this case, since they have children, and that this is more of a need than just a want.
So, yes, just a thought here. This wall is going to provide so many square feet of flat space behind, additional flat space behind his house. If we were to constrict him to be 10 feet off the lot, he would have to go further back to get the same number of square feet, which would cause a financial hardship on his case because his wall would have to be even taller. And it's probably, as you go up in feet, it's probably more than just linear. And so I think that's a hardship that he may not have explained, but it, to me, is what he tried to say when he said then his kids can't use part of the yard. And so he's trying to make a certain amount of square footage for swing sets and other things in the backyard to running around space. And I think making him go further away from a, I mean, I looked at the topography and walked around his backyard actually, and there's no reason, I don't see how any harm can come from getting close to the property line. And this type of structure going in, there is no maintenance. I mean, short of it falling down and have to bring a big piece of equipment, it's not painted, it's just plain concrete, it just sits there and lasts for 50, 60 years and you do nothing to it.
So you think 2 feet's enough?
2 feet should be plenty. There's no need to put a ladder up against it or anything. I mean, you may have to paint the fence on top once in a while, but that's, you can reach from the top. You don't have to actually go out. I'm assuming that, I'm not kind of know what kind of fence he's putting in. It doesn't have to be a solid fence.
It's an ornamental aluminum, it's powder coated.
But there you go, that's a fence that'll last as long as the concrete.
just explain to me why it can't go, the whole thing slide over.
So there are features in the yard, there are large boulders that the wall currently is already designed to go around. If it was to slide over, I mean, there would be a significant amount of square footage loss. We originally looked at doing a larger wall which added only 5 feet further, and it added about $60,000 to the cost of the wall.
What's the size of that flat area that you're going to get out of it?
It's between, probably right around 2,000, 2,500 square feet.
Which is, what are the dimensions? 48
The
by,
wall actually goes all the
Yeah,
way.
so
I know, it's
this
not
square
cool.
doesn't really represent the space. You can see the line there where the wall actually runs the whole width across the back of the house.
It's about a
And it curves up and
70 by
ends flush.
15-foot rectangle, roughly.
what made you pick that size, if you don't mind my asking?
Cost. We originally I had them price out a larger plan, and it was about $60,000 more to add an additional 5 feet.
But why?
I also didn't want to cut down any more trees than I had to.
I'm just questioning why that size, why 17 by, would you say,
Do I have a number on it?
17 feet by
It's about 15 feet by about 70 feet, I think.
70 feet?
That's
And where's the
based on
70?
the property line.
Where's the 70? This way?
This is the 70.
Going across the back of the house.
Across the
That's
back
the
of
70
house,
feet. I don't know what this little red box is, but we'll ignore
So
it.
I went out on the site
Can you
yesterday.
come up a minute? I'm sorry, I need to try to understand it. I tried to put one of those swimming pools on my only flat area on the yard, and it wasn't flat enough, and it spilled over, and I'm thinking, my kids played on surfaces that weren't entirely flat for that much footage. So I
So-
just need to know.
So what is this red square?
which
Does it mean anything?
Oh, that was just to highlight the area where we're talking about, so this is.
So they're requesting
that's
the
5,
variance.
and this is where the high part of the wall is.
So where's your wall going to be? Where's your,
This dark black line
is the wall?
is planned for the wall, yes.
It's staked out on site.
Like
That-
that?
No, that's an existing wall.
That's,
The
that's.
existing wall.
it
So
doesn't
it's going to be
exist.
like
It was a-
this.
It was a proposed wall that was on that plan, that's the septic plot plan.
Just bear, I'm sorry, just bear with me. Go ahead.
This 30 feet, is that from the property line to your house?
So this
Sorry,
is
that's to the patio,
Yeah, she's got
the
that.
existing
That's
patio.
on the
and
plan.
She's got it on
wall
the,
there.
on the computer,
Okay.
but
So we're, we're debating 28 feet wide or 20 feet wide or something in between.
Right, yeah, with regards to the side yard, yeah.
I have that thought.
This is your patio, and you're going this way with
Stan,
The
why
wall
you can't
comes
cut 5 or
down
10
here
feet
and
off
comes
that?
across.
the, but this is you.
That's our patio, yes.
Okay, all right, okay, I got you.
Yeah, so this was just to show that,
Yeah.
like I said, the size of the side yard would be considerably smaller.
Mr. Balliol, this is going to be a wall, this is going to be a wall here, right?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Into, yeah.
Yeah, it starts roughly here, but yes. So it started about
Why,
here.
why
goes
can't
down
it be a wall here, is my question.
here.
It
So
reduces this, I
reduces-
get it, but,
Reduces this distance.
bless you.
Quite a bit. And
8 feet.
it can only come down so far, and then it's all forest, and as it goes out further, it obviously becomes higher, and
I think she's asking is why couldn't the whole thing shift over this way a little bit?
So the reason that curve is there is because there's some large oaks that I didn't want to lose, and there's some large boulders there as well that, you know, that pre-existing things that can't be moved.
We've
They
always,
can't actually get machinery back there to move it.
we've always liked trees staying, sorry.
Now, per this sketch, your house is 46 feet from the property line?
Correct.
And the 30 feet is to a patio, so you have a 16-foot patio over here?
It sticks out a little bit, yeah, from the side of the house. The fire pit actually comes out and,
Okay.
yeah, about 16 feet.
So you'd be 38 feet from the house if you held the 10 feet.
Yeah.
And you'd have sort of 10, you create, instead of 2 or 3 feet wide, you would create a 10-foot wide area that's kind of become unusable?
Along the side of the wall, yeah.
Yeah.
On that slope, yeah.
No, I think on the side. not
On the
back.
side,
Oh,
if
on
you,
the side, yeah, it's only about 15 to 17 feet before it slopes off, yeah.
Right, I mean, if you went in 10 feet, then you'd have a 10-foot strip that's kind of not useful, is what you're saying.
And I could put something over there, but I don't know that I'd want the kids playing above the slope.
Yeah.
That's all.
do you have comment?
No. No, I don't think so.
Should I make a motion to?
Okay.
How much down further back does it, I think you answered the question, but where does it stop sloping and level out?
Doesn't really.
It doesn't.
It doesn't? Okay, I didn't
Not
get a
really.
chance to go up, that's fine.
No,
The
I
pictures look
think-
like that, but I didn't get a chance to go over, so that's fine.
It's pretty.
So, yeah, so it's just gonna keep going and going.
Sure, the kids like it, it's me.
Is this Mrs. Balliol,
It's
the
gotta
one
be
that's
good.
gonna watch the kids out there all day long? Would you like to speak?
Ben.
Home. This gives you a better idea, so I only give you a snippet to here, but it keeps going down to here.
And then there's
So the-
wetlands down there.
Yeah, so the wall's, you know, gonna stop right about here.
Okay.
Do either of you want to say, speak or say anything?
Thank you.
Personally, I think it'll actually make things look nice back there. You know, it's kind of an odd slope the way it is, and I think it'll give them a lot of room for the kids. And I think if you moved out 10 feet, it would become impractical. I actually think that would look odd, you know, I mean, if you did that. You'd have that whole strip, and you wouldn't have the benefit of his backyard, so. I don't have any issues with it. I assume the plan is just gonna keep the drainage, you know, on the site the way it is, right? And so I actually personally think it'll be a nice visual for us. We don't have any issues with it.
Are you 5 Whitetail?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Could you identify yourself for the record?
Yeah, I'm Bill Bent. This is my wife Patty.
Oh, hi,
I was
okay.
just going to ask that question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Should we close the hearing so we can discuss?
You could move to close.
I make a motion to close the hearing?
Can I ask one?
Yes.
There's, with the 2-foot setback to the property line, there's obviously no consideration for landscaping or trying to buffer the wall
Buffer the wall.
with some vegetation.
I haven't gotten that far. I mean, I could plant something there if, if that was, something we decided on, or if
Yeah, I
they
mean,
didn't
my
want to see the wall.
property just, I don't know, sorry if I, an attorney, but mine just slopes down too, so, I'm actually gonna kind of beat my brush back a little bit and probably do some plantings and stuff as well. So it'll just be I don't think you'd be able to tell, it'll just be a natural progression down the hill, right?
So it would stand out from your point of view.
I don't think so.
You can obviously
I
make a
think-
motion to include plantings in the decision if you wanted to.
There-
You can condition a variance.
I think what they're saying is having a 10-foot buffer would kind of create a no man's land, which he would have no incentive to try to maintain, and they would have no ability to maintain.
Understood.
All right, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing.
I don't think
Rod,
I-
were you the second?
I don't, yeah,
Second.
yeah, we didn't have a second.
I had Rod.
Oh, did it?
No, somebody said second, I
Oh,
didn't.
oh, you can't second because you.
Oh, sorry.
You're-
That's
you're
okay.
alternative-
That's okay.
alternate.
Second.
Okay, so I have a second from John Field to close the hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, discussion, deliberation, I'll poll everybody. Kitty, do you mind starting so that I don't put Nick on the spot?
I didn't, I have to sort of recuse myself only because I was unable to physically visit the site today, or before the meeting, so the pictures, it's a little harder to track, but it looks to me, especially with the neighbor's backyard, that it's all pretty wooded and it's not going to be visible from the street. It's not going to, as you pointed out with the construction, or you did, John, nobody needs to paint it or maintain it or anything. It's just the structure will be there and it won't have those kinds of issues that we typically do and rightfully worry about. So my sense is that it's, notwithstanding the why should we make an exception for you, which I completely agree with, in terms of persuading the board that this is a worthy exception and it's not going to open up too many floodgates. But I thought it was a reasonable proposal for the purposes given and the kind of topography that they're struggling with.
Very articulate. John?
I'm sensitive to the attempts to try to limit grading or cutting of trees. So locating it as the slope and topography take it is I think, a reasonable approach. I also sensitive to going through the expense of this work, but limiting it to a smaller area is probably not financially feasible. I'd like to, I would assume that you, having gone through the process, would apply for a building permit. And,
They submitted the plans.
right,
They were approved contingent on the setbacks, which was
Yes.
the first I heard about it.
mhm,
And that's when I approached
right.
applying for a variance.
And then also a barrier at the top where it would be required,
Yep.
also part of the building permit process. And that the design was sealed by a registered design professional, but that's part of the building permit process as well. And lastly, because of the proximity, I think it's important to have absolute control over where it is so that there's no mistakes later on. So I would ask somehow that if there are existing stakes or those that have been set by a professional land surveyor, reference those in the decision that we, if we grant it, that we have that control.
Good points. John Sewell?
Yeah, I feel for him, I feel like there is a financial hardship for making it smaller, it just makes the overall project more expensive with less return. I'm actually impressed that we're using these blocks, because I think the blocks look much better, and it's a finished product than a poured concrete wall. They're actually pretty ugly. And I understand the wall's gonna be 12 feet at its highest, but it's gonna go from 12 feet to 0 feet, and so a lot of the, it's not gonna be, it's this huge wall, it's more of it's gonna be disappear into the ground. I just, that's the issue, and I understand your issue of worrying about, you bought it, you bought it and now you want to change it. But I think if this was a structure like a garage or something, we were putting 2 feet from the property line, I'd have more of an issue with it than basically it's just landscaping, so to speak. It's tall, 12 feet, and does have a fence, but I think it sounds like it's going to be nice looking when it's finished.
Cheryl?
I've said enough. But I understand the 2 feet. I have a thing about 3 feet, just because I want people to be able to know around it.
But it's not going to make any difference. 2 feet or 3 feet is going to make no difference as far as maintaining it, because there's nothing to maintain.
Well, I know, I hear you. I'll shut up about it. But, and we have certainly granted variances to allow garages to be placed within a couple of feet of property lines, that properties that were bought without garages, and declared those needs. And to me, play area for children is every bit as important as a garage.
Rod?
Yeah, I think going 10 feet for the sake of meeting the bylaw makes it a less desirable project and probably isn't justified. As far, excuse me, as far as 2 feet versus 3 feet, nothing is maintenance free. You're probably gonna have to maintain it. If it was at 3 feet, you'd have more room for planning and so on. And we've kind of set the precedent that any structure like that should be 3 feet from the property line, so I would feel much more comfortable saying 3 feet.
I agree with what was said, that yes, he understood what he was buying when he moved in, but in this housing market, as he said, if we don't give this to him, the house is useless to him, where is he gonna go? If this was 4 years ago, when houses were more, I wouldn't say abundant, but available, okay, but now, what are we gonna do? And I'm sensitive to the fact that he has children, and he doesn't want them just toppling down the hill.
That's just because you have a newborn.
Yeah.
Wait.
Sledding hill.
Yeah, really. And actually, I was thinking about that. It must be a fantastic sledding hill in the winter.
Except the trees stop the
Goes right in
sled.
the woods.
That's true, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, we sled our front yard, and then I've had to curve it to try to come into the patio area,
Oh, okay.
because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, no, I get you.
It's like sledding down my front yard goes right into the road.
Ah.
We always had to ditch 10 feet from the road.
But it sounds like the design was good. The blocks sounded like a great idea, and the aluminum fence sounds like low maintenance. So if we want to stick to the 3-foot requirement that we've been doing all along, I don't have a problem with that. But otherwise, I don't see a problem with this application.
I'm ready for a motion.
You're not going to have your
No,
speak?
you heard my comments. and-
Do we want to pull 3 feet versus 2 feet before
What's
we
that?
make a motion?
Do
Are
I
you
have?
convinced my garage versus play space?
Not at all. And one of the reasons I'm not convinced, quite honestly, is because in our garage exceptions, we're talking about lake lots that are 1/4 acre and there's no other place to put it. Or in areas where the septic system is taking all of the yard and there's no other place to put it. This is a little different situation. This is a want for a yard area a little bigger because it's a little more cost efficient. That to me is not a variance criteria. However, you have convinced me that this is a very nice gentleman with very nice neighbors. And you, clearly, I let the board and the butters prevail when I'm conflicted, and this one conflicts me not because I don't want you to have a yard. It's because what I said, I drove up and down that street twice, and I said every single lot meets the same criteria. And I don't know how many are on Whitetail. I was quite shocked to see how many houses are there. And even more shocking is that number 1 starts at the back end and not at the front end.
The
But-
street started
At the back, yeah, at
And
the
there was a
back.
road, you remember the rotary in the middle?
Yes, I do.
That's where the street ended.
But I wrote up and
Added on
down
to it.
saying, eventually, every single person could come before us, not that they will, but could with the same argument, and we're going to have a whitetail full of, 12-foot block walls. It has nothing to do with you, it really doesn't. It's how I feel about. I'm missing John Cantino. We had a fellow on the board that was a builder, and he would surprise me all the time by being against almost everything that I thought was reasonable, and I'm missing him, because we never have a naysayer on the board, so that's me
I
tonight.
thought I was the naysayer.
Not always, you're the 3-foot sayer. And I don't really care if it's 2 or 3. You've convinced me with an argument, frankly, that what would happen with my 10 feet or her 3 feet is we're going to have scrub brush that, if it looks like anything like my dog pen, is gonna have those burrs that stick to the chin of the
Yeah, but
dog
if it's
and
3
nothing
feet, he
else.
could mow it.
No, he's not gonna mow
Yeah,
it.
Can't mow it anyway.
He's not gonna mow it, he's
It
not
doesn't
gonna
get
do
mowed.
Get a mower over there.
It doesn't
so-
get mowed now.
Right.
He'll go out there with loppers and
Shears.
get rid of the
Now,
worst
to
of it.
build it, he's going to have to go on your property.
No.
No,
No?
generally not.
But I would like
They'll
to,
do
I
it
would
all
like
from
to
the
put
side.
in, I would like to put in the decision some ground cover or
Trees.
some natural landscape
Plantings?
feature.
I'd
I
be
don't
going
care what it
outside
is,
with
you
the
can
light.
pick whatever you want, I just, keeping that scrub down makes
Comment
sense to
that
me.
If I do put in some sort of bush or whatever, it will prohibit that space from being walked and maintained.
Right.
Yeah, it gets
Without
in the way
walking
too.
around it.
But you could grow.
his
Do you
property
have to
will-
maintain it if it's something like euonymus or something, what is that what they call that?
Well, you could go ivy up the side of
The
it.
spreading greens.
Oh, that Ivy tears things apart. Well, there's
Yeah, but
certain
you're not looking
guidelines to go.
to have the greenery go up the wall. You were talking about having it go on the perimeter.
Well, it's all
A
been-
beautiful tulip tree.
He can do whatever he wants, I just think that there ought to be something in the decision about maintaining the
Appearance.
greenscape,
So are you supporting 3 feet or 2 feet?
I'm all right with 2 feet, it's just, he's gonna move, and the next neighbor, you may move, but the next neighbor may let it become, I don't know, the invasive species stuff that
Poison
takes
ivy.
over, poison
It's already
ivy,
there,
or
But
unfortunately.
it could
It's
be
already
there now
Dealing
anyway.
with
poison
that.
It's already
sumac.
there.
And there's no
It's-
requirement that you remove those.
No, I know it, but he will remove it if he's gonna be having his kids play there, and he's gonna dig it up anyway for the wall, so let's keep it removed, that's all.
All right.
Just put
Shall I-
something in
shall
your
I
motion.
attempt this?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the petition for case number 22-936,
Excuse me,
Comma,
you're gonna
seven.
say grant a variance.
grant the variance
Yeah.
for case number 22-963, comma 7, for 7
Whitetail.
Whitetail Way, pursuant to zoning code 173-31 to reduce the side setback, the side as
From 10 feet to
2 feet,
2 feet, to allow for, go.
a retaining wall to be built as not demonstrated, as what?
Presented.
As
Presented.
presented, thank you. We can all do this together. As presented,
And I would say on the following conditions.
Finding because of the topography.
Yeah, we don't
That's-
have to put that in the decision, it's gonna go in the,
that's our
it's gonna go in
criteria.
the decision when I'm typing, or whoever's
With the
writing it.
following conditions, it be no more than 2 feet from the property line,
No less than.
no less than 2 feet from the property line, and that there be some kind of attention paid to the greenscape down along the property line.
There's more than that, John's conditions were good.
Actually, those are all
Those are all
building
building
inspector.
department things.
That's building
Those
department.
ditches aren't needed.
You okay with that?
That's Ed
I think
Mullen's
it's better
purview.
Yeah, but we-
To state it right now, that if
I'm concerned about the lot line control, like John is, because you've got a lot of engineers out there, and we don't know if stakes have been moved, so I think he needs to put in the decision that the building inspector verify the lot line distances.
Well, he should do that anyway,
Yeah.
right?
I'm just gonna say, no closer than 2 feet to the property line with with engineer certification of the lot lines. Yeah,
Okay. That, I was trying to avoid adding additional cost by
That will cost him a
requiring
couple $1,000s more. He's already got a
that.
pin.
If,
Do you need an engineer to certify it?
Well, he's already had a surveyor do it, right?
No,
So
surveyor.
the pins are still in place.
Surveyor.
It's a simple job just to stand, draw a long string between the two pins and go.
He's got a pin. He's had it surveyed. We haven't ever made anyone do that.
right, if those exist now, if they're set and they haven't been moved or
Correct, yeah, they put
altered.
the, I don't know, 3-foot, 4-foot rods in the corner from
Mhm.
the property, yeah.
There you go. No, property's been.
And you're able to see from
Yes.
point to point,
Yeah.
and you're able to locate along the ground where the start of the wall would be and where the end would be, so that,
And you haven't moved that pin closer to your property, have you?
Very, very visible.
so that what you're constructing in general matches what's been presented.
Correct.
That's my only concern. I don't necessarily think that it's close enough to warrant having it staked out once there's construction by a surveyor, but
Yeah, I don't want to
I
say,
took it out.
I don't
Okay.
want to have him have to have an
adequate
engineer go
control
back.
so that
okay, I took it out of your motion.
we're not here a year from now when it's found that it's accidentally placed too close, and we have to try to adjudicate that.
Understood.
All right, so I have that retaining wall to be built substantially as shown on the drawings presented to the board, no less than 2 feet, no closer to the lot line than 2 feet, and some natural greenscape maintained in the buffer area between the two lots, on your lot, up between the two lots. Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second.
Okay. And I'm going to call for, a motion is made and seconded, I'm going to call for a vote.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain just because you need 4 out of 5 and you've got them.
Okay.
So I'm just going to abstain.
That's only me.
Huh?
That's usually only me.
I know, and I've really never done that before. I just am really troubled. And I'm glad you're getting it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There is an appeal period on a variance. How long is it? I forget.
20.
20 days.
20 days.
It's 20 days after the decision is written, and I think, since I'm so negative about that, no, I'll write the decision because it'll probably happen.
Do you want me to?
I'll write this.
You wrote one last month. Somebody else write one.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you
Well, I
did
wrote
too.
the big one last month, except it's almost as much.
Do you want to write this one?
All
I
right.
wrote one last month too.
I'll write this one. You guys can write the special permit next time we have one. I'll write this one.
Okay,
Okay.
it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're all
Have
set.
it.
Is it?
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Congratulations.
Good night.
Good night. We still have minutes to do, board?
Yep.
I have 2 comments
Go ahead.
where I abstain, I recuse myself and John Field in the next case recused himself. I think the reason has to be stated, doesn't it?
Where are you?
Well, the very
On the
first
minutes.
sentence, the very first sentence under case 22-961, where Stuart recused himself as in the butter.
Okay.
I give a reason for it.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And then John Field recused himself.
As a relative.
And I don't think he ever really stated a reason, did he? He just got up and
Well,
sat
we all
down.
knew what it was.
Well, he got up and walked away, and she had to
Yeah.
call him back to say, I'm recusing myself.
Okay, anybody else?
I have a comment on, where is it? Wait a minute. The minutes for the second hearing were, she did a masterful job of, it was a long discussion with a lot of moving parts and a lot of different things, and she did a very good job. There are a couple of little nuances that I would like to catch, and my concern is because I didn't hear them that way. I don't think they were stated that way, and from my review of the meeting, it didn't come out that way. For example, in page 3, about the 1, 2, fourth paragraph down, Gould continued indicating that the HCA was subsequently amended with the state select board stating the town was no longer accepting the affordable unit. I would say the house, because the town, the select board,
That's a good comment. That's a good,
it was the house that they didn't accept.
well, it says except
Accepting the
some
affordable
of the
unit,
select board members.
saying that no longer, they were no longer
Oh,
interested
I'm
in
in the
accepting
wrong
the
s-
house.
I'm in the wrong paragraph. The town was no longer interested in accepting the house. I agree.
Right.
Okay.
There are a couple of other little things, it's just the things I worry about. I don't know whether this one's going to head to court eventually or not.
Probably is. That's one of the reasons I wanted to take the first stab at amending it too.
And when the people are talking, each time she carefully, on the front of the paragraph, carefully identifies who's speaking. I would like to see that, I mean, Mark Martinari said, Gould said, et cetera. When Attorney Platt was speaking, there's 3 paragraphs of her that I would like to the paragraph, each paragraph to also start with Attorney Platt.
Where do you see this?
So on the first page, no, second page, I'm sorry, second page, no, first page of this case. Attorney Platt was present representing the Fields, that's the first line of the first paragraph. And then it goes on, there's another paragraph, the Fields contend. I would like it to say
Platt contend.
Attorney Platt contended for
Yeah.
the Fields.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
And then there's a third paragraph, Attorney Platt argued.
Yeah,
Yeah, they is
Big
kind
catches,
of
yeah.
ambiguous.
I try to catch that on some of the others here too.
Well, no, on the others, it's all there.
Well, that's because I already edited it.
Okay, so on the last paragraph of page 3, we're talking, Martinari indicated there's still only 3 affordable units in development. Once the planning board found out there was another permit pending, it notified the building commissioner that 350 was not a planning board matter, and the HCA was outside the planning board's purview. Then it goes on, indicated, who indicated, what indicated? Indicated that the developers would need to, did Martinari?
One second.
Second?
Yeah, that would be Montanari.
Right,
I think that was.
would need to
yeah.
appear before the, okay, so we need to say Martinari there.
Yeah.
We go on to Jeff Yates, and she does a great job of saying who's saying what,
Yeah.
and condensing the minutes, and leaving a lot of the stuff that just didn't need to be there out.
Yeah, I thought she did a very good job with a complicated hearing.
Or you did, or both of you did.
No, she did a great job. I just, there were a couple of out of sequence things I tried to just put in sequence so the reader could follow it, that's all.
Right, those are my
Good.
inputs. Anyone else?
I have just one question on the same hearing. It's on the second page, is Building Inspector Ed Mullen indicated that, and then it goes on to say, when the petitioners appeared to amend. Now, should it be the petitioners requested to amend?
Yeah, that's a good comment too. And that one confused me because not enough attention was paid to the fact that there had been a permit issued and then it needed to be amended. But Platt didn't raise that and call a lot of attention to it, so it didn't really get before us.
Well, had the
So when you're
permit
reading-
that had been issued, was it issued as an affordable unit?
No. No, that permit originally issued about 2 or 3 years ago. And the attorney who wrote the argument for the hearing said that was one of their arguments, that it was a previously issued permit and work had been taken underneath that permit.
Right.
And the board should have had the opportunity to discuss and pass
But-
on whether or not that permit was still alive and well, but Attorney Platt never raised it as an argument.
So we can't put it in the minutes.
No, it is in the minutes. It was raised that there was a prior permit, and
Yeah, but
where
we
where
can't
John
add
just
things.
said, Ed Mullins said, the petitioners requested to amend it, that happened.
Okay, so requested rather than appeared. But we can't start putting in.
No, I'm not putting
Other stuff.
anything, in. I'm just saying, I found, when I was writing the decision, I went back and I went, oh, that's weird, because they had asked for that as a either-or argument, and they never got to the, Platt never got to the or argument, so. But that's a good comment. Any others? Okay. Take a motion to amend as.
But then we are going to add there that a letter was received after the hearing was closed.
No,
No, not to these.
no, it goes
Oh, I
this
thought they
week.
wanted to attend-
No, it goes this.
This week's,
me-
okay,
These
right,
minutes
gotcha.
were going to say,
Yeah.
a letter was received by George Sanders on the date that it was received and read into the record, period.
Just an administrative.
Just an administrative
some way
piece of mail.
Acknowledging that the board received something.
It can't be in these minutes, because these minutes are
You're right.
recording of
Right.
what happened
Right, it's
last
the minutes
time.
for today's meeting.
It gets filed somewhere, and
Okay,
I move we accept the meeting minutes from last week's month as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
One point, the minutes are approved. One point of order, is I sent around a signature thing. Did anybody see where that went to? The admin asked me for it last week, and I went, I don't remember what I did with it. Just
From last month?
from last month. I
Because there were
sent
so
her
many
out a
people.
sign-in sheet, because there were so many
I think
people.
Ed
What?
might have kept it.
Oh, maybe,
That's a good thought.
maybe. And the other member input, has anybody been to the new planning board and building offices?
I
Yes,
have.
I was there yesterday putting in request for a building permit.
And what's your take
And they were
on
very
it?
helpful, help me fill it out.
What's your take on it?
They did a wonderful job with the woodwork.
Oh,
Where is this?
it's near the Cooper
It's in
room.
the, underneath the
Oh,
old
with the
library.
old
Are you talking
was-
about the plywood?
Yeah, it's really nice. First of all, I use a really expensive plywood, that's like, marine plywood. And he did a nice job, nice little layout, cutting it off, making it, giving privacy.
I make a motion to adjourn this hearing, this meeting.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
You can turn us off.